move on to number four?
Let's do it. Number
Okay,
four.
number four for me is going to be Diablo 4.
Nice.
So for me, here's the thing. This is probably the big disappointment or the big like realization as a grown adult playing video games that we've just outgrown the model. There were so many things that this game did really well. People complained in Diablo 3 that it was too cartoony. Well, this one's dark. People complained, oh, that you were on a that you were on a tight rail with Diablo 3, that you were on the story, you had to play through the story exactly that way. This one is an open world. There were so many things that they did really well. You could go do side quests all day long. You could go fight bosses. You could go hang out with your friends. You could grind the story. You could like the graphics and the fact that you could find different pieces in the world, and you could keep that look of your character while finding new items, so that you didn't have to give up an item because it looked cool. There were so many things that they did well with this game, and there were so many things that they liked. But I think that what was missing was some sort of social element. And they tried to do that with the various live events and the different things that they had popping up, but it was so much all the time that I think that I became sort of desensitized going around the environment where it wasn't meaningful. Um, and really, I've always struggled with Diablo games and just RPG games in general, where if I take a character to a certain level, and I've beaten the story, and I think I stopped at level 51 or 52. I mean, essentially, I got to the place where I was allowed to up the difficulty to the next difficulty, so nightmare mode, and there's new things that are unlocked with that mode that you couldn't do in the earlier mode. So I grounded out and I did the big Cathedral of Light mission where you got to go beat this really hard dungeon, and then it unlocks and you can turn the difficulty up. And then I started playing it again, and I just sat there with my hands on my keyboard, and I was like, I'm not doing this. Right. Like I'm definitely not starting a new character. And I know that
Right.
they have seasonal characters, but at 36 years old, I've just put all this time into 51. The max is 100, and I'm seeing what it's going to take to get to 100 with all these other great games out there, and I'm just not going to do it. And I think that no one has figured out what World of Warcraft captured 20 years ago with the social element of online, right? Where you can get together and do missions with your friends. And people have tried to replicate it, right? Destiny has done the 6 hour raids, but none of us are going to play video games for 6 hours, and we definitely don't have six friends or
First
four
in the
friends at this
world. Yeah, never this
right,
guy.
at this point, right? And people have tried it, but no one has been able to replicate that feeling of being in a brand new environment and hanging out with your friends and going, oh, I wonder what's going on over here. Diablo definitely had that missing, right? You never were really like, I wonder what's over here. You were like, I'm gonna grind, go to the next, right? Get in,
Yeah.
go, clear, spam, 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 get your gear, get out, and do it again. And for that reason, it's not higher on my list. It's obviously still number 4 on my list, which is still a great spot. Um, I think that they made so many great improvements to it, and there was so much pressure being put on them to deliver a great game that um I give them kudos for that. But all in all, like I might pick this up for an hour or two every once in a while, but I'm probably not going to play this. And I don't necessarily know that there's even anything wrong with the game. It just may be that I've outgrown that model. So that's why it sits at number 4 for me.
I think that's fair. That's one of those games that I'd love to go back and play more, like with you. Like we were really excited and jazzed on it when it came out, and we got a few sessions in, like maybe 3 to 5. Not really sure where we landed there, but I really enjoyed my time with it. And then when they came out with season 2 so rapidly, and they're like, start a new character, I'm like, I haven't even finished the campaign. And then at that point, my buddies were ahead of me, and I was like, well, shiny. And then I was on to the next thing. But I think you do well to break it down in regard to almost like the fatigue that people are getting with series that come out, you know, time and time again. Like it's almost too familiar, but you can almost feel like the hooks are good. It's a really weird dance that they have to play, right? Because it has to be a live service game, which is a very difficult needle to thread in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I think that your statement right there is exactly right. I mean, at least this is how I'm feeling, is that we're waiting for some new IPs. And like I get that there are certain restrictions within the gaming sphere that you have to operate under certain rules, right? You have to, this thing does this and this color does this and this is good and this is bad and you can't jump over this, right? But there's ways that you can disguise that, right? And I've talked extensively with you between here and BLB about climbing, right? And how you can take, you know, tasks that you do over and over and over again and disguise them as not that, and make them more interesting. And I think that, hey, you know, do I need to grind on D4 and pick up 4,000 different swords that are all one slightly better than the other? Do I need to do that? Or can you have the same experience with 3?
Right.
You know, can you, you know, a game that, I don't know, is Fortnite somewhere in your top 5?
It is not this year.
Good. So then I can talk. It's not in mine either. Okay. So then I can say like Fortnite encapsulates what it means to have social events there. That's why they're winning right now, because they are the closest to capturing what World of Warcraft captured years ago, which was they have these big live concerts and they have these things that bring people back, right? And this is a side conversation about the amazingness of Fortnite. It just isn't in my list this year because I'm not feeling that this year, but I still give them kudos. They bring back OG Fortnite. They bring back Zero Build. They do a concert. They, you know, every IP, they have a concert with Eminem, right? They do all these things. That's like, RPG based games are going to have to do stuff like that to keep people going. Like, if you're going to have a live entity like a game like Diablo 4 that people are going to come back to, it has to be a lifestyle. And it has to be like, oh, hey, on Wednesday, if you don't play on Wednesday, there's going to be this boss that you have to fight. And it has to be, there's going to be somebody's going to be there. There's going to be an AMA with a celebrity. There's going to be somebody's going to be in the game that you're going to be able to go visit them. You're going to do something to bring people back every single week or quarterly or whatever you do. And you have to build the community around that event. And if D4 does something like that with future iterations and with their expansion, whenever that is ultimately, or DLC, whenever that's going to come out, they will see more success because the framework of grinding is there. The cool graphics are there. The game is beautiful. It plays well. It gives you all the things you want to do. The tech trees are kind of interesting and allow for various playthroughs if that's your thing. But what's missing is the social component. And right, how many, you and I aren't even playing Fortnite, but we know and that those things are going on.
Game of the year last year. I mean, we were hot and heavy like later part of last year, early 2023, and just kind of fell off altogether because it was time for a change, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, but like even though we're not playing it, it's still in top of mind, right? Like we know what's going on, right? We know, oh, Lego Fortnite just came out. Oh, Eminem concert just came out. Even though we're not even playing the game.
Still booting into it and checking it out.
Right?
Getting the ice.
We're still...
that is the game that I will always have updated. Just in case like you hop on and you're like, hey, Fortnite, like that's the game that I always have updated. And like, does it come in handy? Very rarely, but I'm not going to miss out when my buddies are on.
Right. So they have put on a masterclass, and I think if D4 does something more like that, they will see more success. So number 4 for me. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is a game called Super Mario Wonder. This one came out in 2023 and sits on my number 4 spot because this is whimsy. This is unfettered whimsy at all ends. So let me walk back a little bit. 2D Mario games. I would say my favorite is Super Mario World. Came out in 1990. Since then, Nintendo has come out with 7 titles that are all 2D Mario games, and every time I've played one, I have been disappointed. That includes the Mario Maker games, that includes all of the different entries that I've come out and played. I feel like they've never captured what Mario World did in terms of like teaching you how to play the game, and just the newness of that was never, there was never anything unique enough to expand upon it. Now, what I'm not mentioning in the 2D Mario games is all of the 3D Mario games. So a whole different discussion. We're just talking 2D here. Super Mario Wonder is a game that has one of the best loops I think I've ever played. And by that I mean, what happens in each one of those Mario levels is you pop in and you know how Mario works. You jump, you go to the basic mechanics. The first like quarter to third of that level is just a classic Mario game. And then they basically put in a Wonder Flower, and when you touch this Wonder Flower, something unique and special happens in that level. Sometimes it's a new enemy type, sometimes you turn into an enemy, sometimes things goes psychedelic and all of a sudden you're floating through the sky. And then you have the experience, you kind of get used to it, you play through the rest of the level, and the level is over. And this loop is anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes depending on the level. Now, is there a lot of 15-minute levels? No, they're normally like 10-minute levels. But essentially that loop of going into a level, understanding dynamics, having the dynamics changed in a unique way, reestablishing the dynamics, and then finishing the level in a short dopamine hit is just like some of the best game design I have ever seen. You then couple that with the fact that they've taken the timer out of these 2D Mario levels, which means you are now encouraged to explore each level. You now have the time to go look for the secrets, to find the Wonder Flowers, to find the special collectibles. And you want to spend the time in there because you want to see what's unique and special about each one of these specific levels in Super Mario Wonder. That said, like, this is a game that I have got probably 60 to 70% of the way through. And at that point, I was just like, this is on the Game of the Year list. No doubt about it. Like, this loop is amazing. It's Nintendo at their best. They're establishing not only what a Mario game can be, but they are expanding it a way it has not been done before since the 90s, in my opinion. I'm blown away. And then on top of that, you add in the multiplayer where I'm playing with my kids. They turn into ghosts and then I just have to touch their little ghost in the air and they come back to life. So now what you've done is you enabled me as an adult gamer where I can play the more challenging levels and just continually save my kids over and over to keep them engaged in what's happening. Like, they don't run out of lives and then go away. They continue to populate on the screen. Like, it's just very, very well done, and seems like it's hit a loop that is one of the best loops in video games I've seen in a very long time. For me to get 70% through a game and say, I don't want to play this anymore because it's so good that I know I'll have an opportunity to come back and enjoy this as a palate cleanser, says something greatly in my opinion, because I am a video game snob, and Mario Wonder is on my top 5 list, sitting at number 4.
Well, what you said was perfect, and it speaks to the core philosophy of what makes a great game, which is, you know, that somebody over at Nintendo, prior to the development of this game, said, what are all the problems with our games? And they said, well, people don't like it when people die and they can't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Timer stresses people out. People want to be able to explore. The levels get repetitive and boring. And they wrote down all these notes and they were like, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this. And we're going to fix this. And this just goes to show when all of the mechanics reinforce the core experience, whatever that, if it's a story, right? I always go back to jumping, but if you're going to do a story mission, you can't do anything too tedious. You can't do any, because you're in the middle of a narrative and you don't want someone to not be engaged, right? You don't want someone to be disconnected from the story because of climbing or because of having to go do too many fetch quests. If you're going to do an open world explore game, you're going to need to make it quick, people to be able to get places quickly. You're going to need to move people around fast. You're going to need to be able to do things so that they're incentivized to continue to do whatever your end goal is. And it seems to me that Mario has done that here. They understood what their weaknesses were, and they were like, we're going to fix all of those with this game.
Yeah, it really does. And like, I think what they've done is like they've left like the old school, this is the standard of Mario behind, and they've tried to break the model here. And it's brilliant. You know what I mean? Well, Mario always has a timer. Well, you always have to do it like this. And it really feels like they went out on a limb and they're like, no, we're going to break things. And they did. Like, I don't know how they expand upon this further, but that loop, man, is so dang good. Like it just is. Like I can't get, I want to be playing it right now. And like I'm like trying to knock other stuff off my backlog because that feels like a chore, and I know I'm coming back to finish Mario Wonder. So I'm blown away. I am a guy that would not go out and buy this game on day one. It was gifted to me while I was sick. And boy, am I glad I did, because if you would have told me as somebody walking off the street, go play Mario Wonder, it's one of the best, I'd be like, yeah, I've done Mario. I get it. Like 2D Mario. Yeah, no, I get it. And boy, I'm very surprised that this landed on my top 10. But as I'm looking through my list of games that I completed, this just nails the fun meter, like almost better than anything else in my list. Like this is like unapologetic fun, and I know I can pick it up, hand it to anybody, and they can plug in and have a good time.
So what you're saying is I should have bought this instead of classic Mario Party. That's what you're telling me.
I mean, yeah, that's essentially what I'm telling you. But hey, if do you still get to rotate the stick on the Switch? Is that how that works?
Oh
No.
God, yeah. That game should be buried in the trash outside because that causes more family fights than freaking Sorry does. But
Oh, that's
good,
awesome.
good note.